It's more bad news for a sector of the economy that has heard little else recently. With many American farmers already auctioning off their possessions, thousands more will get notices next week advising them that they are delinquent in their loans and may face foreclosure shortly after Christmas. The government says it can wait no longer for its money.
We have 85,000 delinquent borrowers. Again, $8 billion in delinquent loans. 85% of that delinquent more than 3 years. And so it's a very stressed portfolio.
Some of the farmers will be able to renegotiate their outstanding loans, but as many as 30,000 may lose their homes and livelihood. Monty Smith, an Iowa farmer who owes the government about $30,000, intends to fight back.
I just want my own little piece. I've had to fight for this country, and I feel like they're giving us the shaft.
Democrats charge that the Republican administration deliberately delayed the foreclosure notices until after the election.
It doesn't take a genius in political science to know that it was intentional, know that it was time for that, and know that it was done so that 80,000 prime families wouldn't suddenly change their votes.
I think the timing's totally political. These letters could have gone out before this election, and to hold off for roughly 1 week till after the election, it's political timing.
That's absolutely not true. The whole calendar of events just worked out that way. It just was not timed in any way with the election.
Farm advocacy groups are afraid that many farmers will simply ignore the notices, as they have in the past.
Farmers have learned kind of an adaptive strategy that if you buy time, you can improve your position. And now that the clock has started ticking again, buying time by not dealing with your mail is not going to be the solution.
The government insists that it's serious this time, Bob, that it will foreclose on those farmers who either don't respond or can't qualify for more credit. Bob?
Well, Terry, by accident or design, this little goodie was a surprise. Anything else like this coming down the pike that you know of?
It seems to be the American way, doesn't it, to have the bad news after the election. And there is more bad news coming. There's a bill coming due to bail out the nation's savings and loan institutions that are in trouble. A bill that could run anywhere from $50 to $70 billion. Even here in Washington, Bob, that's real money.
Where does that come from?
Well, some of it, of course, from the Federal Deposit Insurance Company and those corporations that are set up to do it. But at a point fairly soon, that insurance fund will run out, and the taxpayer will get the bill.
Thank you, Terry. We're just full of good news tonight. On the eve of the busy holiday travel time, the airlines are about to sock it to consumers. It may be the season of giving coming up, but the carriers are about to take it away, and Harold Dow has our report.
It will happen this Tuesday. One of the most popular airfare discounts will be grounded. Passengers now will have to purchase tickets at least 7 days in advance in order to save money. Gone are most discount tickets that could be bought on short notice, 2 to 6 days ahead of time, mostly by business travelers.
So I think what's going to happen, as with most things in our economy, the consumer will eventually pay the bill.
When these special rates disappear, passengers could be paying up to 25% more on some of the more heavily traveled routes. For the traveling public, the move to terminate some discount fares couldn't have come at a worse time, the start of the holiday season.
The only reason I'm flying is the company I work for is paying this, but God, you know, if it was coming out of my pocket, I'd have to hitchhike.
I think they charge enough already.
The timing's terrible. Right around Christmas time, you know, people want to go see their families. I mean, have a heart.
Continental Airlines was the first to unload these discount fares. The other carriers are simply following the leader. Ironically, this move comes at a time when third-quarter profits for the airline industry have been soaring. Even Continental, whose profits were modest by comparison, feels business is good enough to do away with these incentive fares.
What they're basically doing is eliminating the easiest discount to get that has been used recently by many businessmen.
The airlines deny that they are playing the part of Scrooge this Christmas. They say the cut-in discount fares will not affect the vast majority of the traveling public if passengers can still plan their trips at least 7 days in advance. Harold Dow, CBS News, Newark.
There was a funeral in Washington today for former Attorney General John Mitchell. Richard Nixon led the mourners, a virtual who's who of the Watergate era. Former Attorney General Richard Kleindienst. longtime Nixon Secretary Rosemary Woods, and one-time Nixon aide Pat Buchanan. Mitchell, who served 19 months in prison for his role in Watergate, died of a heart attack Wednesday at age 75. Burial was at the Arlington National Cemetery. 2 Americans arrested last month after illegally entering Laos to offer rewards for the return of MIAs were freed today. The U.S. lists 547 servicemen is still missing in Laos. Laos denies it's holding any Americans. Well, coming up next on tonight's CBS Evening News, correspondent Jacqueline Adams with Bush at the beach. And later, an unusual therapy. Jerry Bowen finds out whether it's up to snuff.
Remember when we said that stuff about for richer, for poorer?
I do.
Well, then how come your coffee looks darker than mine?
Mine's decaffeinated Folgers Crystals. Yours is the decaffeinated you always drink.
Did you use the same amount?
Sure. These dark, sparkling crystals are made from Folgers mountain-grown beans.
Really rich.
Sip. Love it?
I do.
You do?
I do.
You're crazy about me.
I am.
Trust me.
Decaffeinated Folgers Crystals. So dark and rich. Shouldn't you switch?
Meeting your new daughter-in-law.
Uh-huh.
With dirty dentures?
I just soaked them.
Soaking's not enough. Denture Cream cleans almost twice as clean as effort into 90 seconds.
Twice as clean.
Brush with Denture Cream or Minty Denture Gel.
The truth is, heart specialists concerned about aspirin irritation recommend Ecotrin over Bayer to help prevent second heart attack. Consult your doctor about the only brand of aspirin that's safety-coated to protect your stomach. That's Ecotrin, and that's the truth.
The new Remington Electroblade vibrating blade system has been an amazing success for those who prefer shaving with a blade. Electroblade's high-speed motor and vibrating twin blades glide so easily, you'll get the closest, smoothest, most comfortable blade shave you've ever imagined. If you don't, I'll give you your money back. Safe, immersible, and cordless. The new Remington Electroblade vibrating blade system. A blade shave like you've never imagined, or your money back.
President-elect Bush is expected to announce more cabinet selections next week, perhaps as early as Monday. CBS News has been told the most likely announcement to come early in the week is that Nicholas Brady, Mr. Bush's close friend and current Treasury Secretary, will be asked to stay on in that post. Other cabinet speculation in Washington this weekend included reports that some insiders are now having second thoughts about John Tower, at one point thought to be the front-runner for Secretary of Defense. But if all that was on the minds of those in Washington, it was not, we are assured, on the front burner tonight in Delray Beach, Florida. And Jacqueline Adams has the story there.
Dawn at the president-elect's vacation spot. And George Bush is up looking for pompano and barracuda, concentrating only on his vacation.
Once in a while, I've never done this. How are you?
The Bushes are focusing on the simple things in life. Fishing, swimming, chatting with friends, napping, followed by more fishing. The president-elect fits right into the Delray Beach area, specifically the hamlet of Gulf Stream. Population 537, heavily Republican. Average income $90,000 a year. It's a town where life's frustrations are limited to missed putts on the golf course and snagged lines for surf fishing chief executives. A town where the fast lane is marked by buoys. It's a town accustomed to VIPs.
There hasn't really been a major change. Everybody's going about their normal, everyday business, playing golf and tennis and bridge.
Nonetheless, Mr. Bush's visit has everybody talking.
Well, we're elated slightly.
Really?
Oh, yes, I voted for him.
I would have liked to seen him on the beach.
Yeah, I hope he enjoys himself. I think it's a good place to come.
Of course, we all worry about his vice president.
In between his trips to the beach, Mr. Bush spent almost 3 hours at work, getting a status report from his transition team and beginning to reach out to politicians whose support he'll need for whichever legislative priorities he ultimately chooses. Jacqueline Adams, CBS News, Gulfstream, Florida.
It used to be that campaign managers who were on the winning side were appointed Postmaster General, a job that required very little work and a lot of politicking. Postmaster's job is no longer a cabinet post, of course, and this year's winning campaign manager wouldn't have considered taking it if it had been. He's already held the third-ranking post in the cabinet, and to the surprise of no one, George Bush gave him the top cabinet job this week. More on that now from State Department correspondent Wyatt Andrews.
All yours.
They have been political soulmates for almost 20 years, friends and neighbors even longer. And last Wednesday, less than 12 hours after victory, George Bush named his friend, James Baker, to the job of a lifetime, Secretary of State.
He has distinguished himself in every position that he has held in the Reagan administration.
James Baker III clearly knows the power ropes of Washington. The question is, what does being White House Chief of Staff or Treasury Secretary have to do with the problems in Lebanon, or the West Bank, or Nicaragua? Some say Baker proved his international ability as Treasury Secretary when he handled the complex currency negotiations that brought down the value of the dollar back in 1985. The talks made U.S. goods cheaper to buy overseas, helped the economic recovery, and impressed many analysts who watched Baker work the deal.
That's the stuff of international economic cooperation, and he showed terrific skill in doing it. I think that indicates he'll be a very good Secretary of State.
But diplomacy is also about troops and weapons, and Baker will face what could be the most complex arms talks in history. Conventional arms talks will likely begin sometime next year, with the Soviets offering to reduce their strength in tanks and soldiers in Europe if NATO reduces its strength in air power. The problem is some Western allies, the French especially, don't want cuts in their air forces. Getting an arms deal for Mikhail Gorbachev might be easier than reaching consensus inside the alliance.
If the United States under Bush is to lead the alliance, they're going to have to bring the French along. The fear is that he will embroil himself in procedure and will end up reacting to Soviet proposals.
Bush and Baker will also inherit one clear Reagan administration failure: Nicaragua, the job pressuring the Sandinistas with a policy Congress will support. And Baker will face the now bubbling crisis of third world debt. Workers this week in Brazil turned violent over the issue of low wages, a problem directly connected to the billions of dollars Brazil owes the rest of the world. The debt, along with the conventional arms talks, are just examples of the new, sophisticated problems that diplomats have rarely faced before. James Baker may be a skilled Texas lawyer, a Washington power player, and Bush's closest ally. But even some of Baker's admirers wonder if that's enough. Wyatt Andrews, CBS News, the State Department.
Nancy Reagan is admitting for the first time that she has influenced some of her husband's personnel decisions. The First Lady says she was forced to because the president's staff did not serve him well. In tomorrow's Los Angeles Times, Mrs. Reagan cites Iran-Contra, saying the president, quote, did not know what was going on. For that, she blames Donald Regan, who was fired as chief of staff in the wake of the scandal.
It's the statement you make as you travel through life, distinctive, decidedly you. The great American road belongs to Buick. It's the fast lane of life, the road to the top, the road that Buick commands. The great American road belongs to Buick. Substantial and sure, with power and grace, a spirit as free as your own. Yeah, it's the freedom to climb just as high as you choose on a road that was made just for you. Oh, the great American road, the great American road belongs to Buick. Great American road belongs to Buick. Great American road.
Wait, don't pour the milk. Why? It's just right. So? So it's just right. It has great taste, tons of nutrition, and there's even fiber nuggets in there. Fiber? Yeah, those crunchy things taste good. That's why they're in there. Great, now why am I waiting? Because it's just right. And if you pour the milk, it's going to be something different. Good point.
Kellogg's Just Right with fiber nuggets. For 100% nutrition and great taste, it's just right.
So? It's just right. So what was it before? It was dry.
A new president and a new Congress. That's the page we're taking from tonight's Washington Notebook. Will they work together? Can they? House Speaker Jim Wright said today that when Democrats increase their majority in both houses at the same time that voters elect a Republican president, the only mandate is for everyone to work together. Easy to say, but that's not how candidate George Bush put it during a campaign.
I have respect for the Congress, but I'm just worried about the way it's churning around down there without leadership and without coming to grips with the major problems that faced us. I don't want the liberal Democratic Congress to spend out of that Social Security Trust Fund too often these days. Congress is part of the problem, not part of the solution.
That is not the majority view, of course, at the other end of Pennsylvania Avenue, and here to talk about that is Bennett Johnson of Louisiana, one of 3 senators who is running for the majority leader's post in the new Senate. Well, Senator, let me begin by asking you, what do you perceive George Bush's mandate to be?
Well, George Bush doesn't have a mandate. He defined a world that did not exist. All he can do, it seems to me, is put out the hand of friendship, which we in the Congress want to put out to him, and work together, because the problems in the real world are very, very serious. Just as you saw earlier in this program, where they're now foreclosing on the farms, they're soon going to be foreclosing on the deficit. We've got to work together to solve that problem.
Well, let's talk about the deficit. That was the one thing that didn't seem to get much comment during this campaign. It's almost as if it were not there. What happens now on the deficit? Are you going to have to raise taxes?
Well, you've got $40 billion to find on the deficit, or if not, under federal law, you have these cuts across the board, which are very difficult to live with. You also have this time bomb of the federal savings and loan problem. It's probably, as you pointed out also earlier in this program, probably $70 billion. It is very, very serious. Now, you can't solve those problems with, I don't know where the president proposes to cut. He says no cuts in military and no cuts in entitlements and no taxes.
You also read his lips, I assume.
And we read his lips.
So how do you do it?
Well, we're not going to propose taxes. That much is clear. Jim Wright has said we're not going to propose those. I think those of us in the Senate feel the same way. What the president ought to do is say, let's convene an economic commission and do so soon, put everything on the table. That's the only way to solve this problem. If he continues to say, read my lips, then we're going to be reading his lips right into the face of disaster.
And what happens then? So he says he will not raise taxes. You say you won't raise taxes unless he goes along with you. I take it that's what you're saying. So what happens if it's an impasse?
Well, what really happens...
stop?
What really happens is when we come in to raise the limit of the federal debt, you must do that by 60 votes. And if you can't do that, then the government stops. And you can't get 60 votes unless you've made substantial progress toward reducing the deficit. So we've got a crisis in the making unless he points the way as to some realistic way to reduce that deficit. That's what we're going to require, is reduction in the deficit.
Senator Johnson, thank you so much. We'll be back in just a moment with more news.
So what are you doing at Dow these days, Peggy?
Well, right now I'm working in agricultural research, Grandpa. We're trying to help farmers find new ways to make every dollar work harder.
We want to keep this farm in the family a few more generations.
Pretty tough, isn't it?
You bet.
So your dad and brother are going to need all the help they can get.
And you can make a difference in what tomorrow brings.
I won't let you down.
'Cause Dow lets you do great things.
Daybreak on the mountain, smooth coffee blend in your cup. And when it tastes your way, it's necessarily Nescafe.
Great coffee blends to taste your way. That's necessarily Nescafe.
When Mom gets a cough and cold, everyone suffers.
Mom, Dad's ironing.
Time to doctor that cough with Robitussin.
Look, Mom's feeling better.
Robitussin, recommended by more doctors, pharmacists, and Dr. Mom.
Nothing great lasts forever. Even the great crab harvest of '88 at Red Lobster. This may be your last chance to taste these 6 crab and seafood combinations starting at $7.95 with succulent king crab and delicate snow crab to dip, drip, and savor. Remember, all great things must come to an end. So hurry to the great crab harvest of '88 at Red Lobster. Friday through Sunday, try our steak and shrimp special. It's new, just $9.95.
Israel today closed off its occupied territories and made dozens of arrests in an attempt to prevent demonstrations supporting the meeting of Palestinian leaders that opened today in Algeria. Tom Fenton with that.
For almost a year, the chant of the young people of the Intifada has rung through the streets and alleys of the West Bank and Gaza. This afternoon, it rang through the conference hall of this seaside resort outside Algiers. PLO Chairman Yasser Arafat arrived for the opening session behind a wall of security, which included a warship, armored vehicles, and mobile anti-aircraft guns. This morning's session of the Palestine National Council did not start with a bang. In fact, it did not start at all. Delegates arrived on time, but had to resort to genteel chatter instead. The real discussions, it seems, were still taking place behind the closed doors of Yasser Arafat's bungalow. When this special session of the Palestinian Parliament in Exile finally opened, the delegates heard Arafat repeat his old battle cries. The revolution will go on, he said, with a machine gun in one hand and an olive branch in the other. And it did not appear to be a message of peace when he told his followers, our revolution will be pursued until victory, until the Palestinian flag is raised over Jerusalem. It's in the public statements outside the conference hall that the message the world wants to hear of peace, reconciliation, and Palestinian independence is being voiced.
There is a general consensus among members of the PNC to declare independence.
But now that Arafat appears to have settled that issue, he still has to deal with the heart of the problem. The political statement which will accompany the Declaration of Independence is what the behind-the-scenes discussions are all about. Just how far the Palestinians will go toward recognizing the existence of the State of Israel. Tom Fenton, CBS News, Algiers.
In Atlanta, Georgia today, about 300 people protested the resignation of a newspaper editor. They contend his departure was a victory for profits over professionalism and bottom lines over headlines. Christine Negroni has our report.
Demonstrators marched to the offices of the Atlanta Journal and Constitution in a New Orleans-style funeral procession. They are demanding the paper rehire the editor who resigned 1 week ago. Supporters of editor Bill Kovach say he improved the paper's substance, while his bosses were more concerned with its look.
The Cox newspaper chain is made up of journalistic chihuahuas. What they feared in Kovach was greatness. If a newspaper means anything, the loss of greatness is a tragedy.
The protests began within the paper itself. Supporters bought 2 full-page ads praising what Kovach had accomplished here. At today's rally, participants carried a coffin and mourned what they believe is the end of serious journalism.
There is no death of journalism in Atlanta.
At the Journal-Constitution, publisher Jay Smith is looking for a formula to win readers, and he doesn't think that's anything to be ashamed of. At dozens of papers, the same search is going on. The popular upbeat newspaper USA Today is studied for clues to its circulation success. In some cases, the USA Today model means fewer hard news and in-depth stories.
As you look at a society that is increasingly making demands on people's times, we have got to find ways to make the newspaper easier to read, easier to access.
I think there's a sort of a creeping problem here, a failure to understand that at some point form begins to dictate substance.
It is at the heart of the dispute in Atlanta. It's an issue debated at other papers.
The larger picture is, I think people see this as possibly part of a national trend, a trend away from editorial values, a trend toward business values.
The demonstration here in Atlanta may be unique, but it is not likely to be effective. There will be a new editor hired at the Journal-Constitution, and the demonstrators can only console themselves with the knowledge that that person's actions will be closely watched across the country. Christine Negroni, CBS News, Atlanta.
Christmas cards of Hallmark, traditional cards, and religious cards, simple cards, fancy cards, even funny cards, cards that say things just the way you want to say them, cards that show how much you really care about your family and your friends. The most ways and the very best ways to express your feelings at Christmas, only at Hallmark, where there's more to Christmas than ever before.
With low back pain, every step shoots pain. Up here. Know what helps?
Clinically proven Back Guard, a shoe insert. Watch how it absorbs foot shock to relieve low back pain.
Amazing. Something down here can help up here.
New Back Guard from Dr. Scholl's.
They came across country by wagon and settled in Amana, Iowa. Whatever they needed, they made by hand. Made it the best it could be. That same fundamental is still practiced today in Amana, Iowa, the home of Amana Appliances, a Raytheon company. Whatever you make it the best it can be. Raytheon, where quality starts with fundamentals.
Finally tonight, in our never-ending quest to keep you up on the latest fads, we take you to the place so many of them begin, California, where health enthusiasts are just now discovering a treatment that's been right in front of their noses for years. Jerry Bowen reports.
In trendy Marin County across the bay from San Francisco, a very old idea is beginning to take hold these days, the folk art of aromatherapy, used to cure the mind and body. Say you want to reduce stress. Practitioners like Joy Gales recommend a combination massage and the aroma of chamomile oil, to be followed by a seaweed mask and essence of geranium and rosemary.
They don't necessarily have to believe, but at least have an open mind.
Not surprisingly, aromatherapy got its start in France, where it's a common medical treatment now covered by health insurance. The idea, known since time began, is that fragrances, from perfumes to fresh flowers, trigger certain physical and emotional responses. Perfume industry experts say that soon aromas will actually be used to shape man's environment.
We're funding research on fragrance and stress, fragrance and sleep, fragrance and social interrelationships, alertness.
And the answers could well turn the small billion-dollar-a-year aroma chemical business into a giant. The problem is so little is understood about the sense of smell.
With light, it can show you a visual stimulus that you've never seen before, and I know in advance what it will look like to you. Can't do that yet with odors. We actually have to get in there and say, take a whiff of this.
The hope is that someday man will know which aromas cure depression, quell anxiety. Already the Japanese are developing computer-controlled aroma pumps for new buildings so that mood-influencing fragrances can be fanned through air conditioning ducts. It will be, say perfume industry experts, the Muzak of the 90s, something definitely to sniff at. Jerry Bowen, CBS News, Hollywood.
That's the news. Later tonight, West 57th will have a report on the plight of the African elephant, hunted for ivory, and Charles Carroll will be along first thing Sunday morning. I'm Bob Schieffer, CBS News in New York. Good night.
Between them, they've won 2 of the last 3 Super Bowls. The Bears battle the Redskins tomorrow on CBS Sports.